The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi there, it's Christine Joanna Hart, and it's the Christine Joanna Hart Show, and I have nothing planned for you tonight, so bad luck to anybody that's tuned in, hoping for a good show. It's going to be a diary update of my life, and my life's really boring at the moment, so you're in for a really bad 2 hours. I'd advise you to turn off now, but if you're going to stick with it, I'm going to do my best to try and entertain you. There's not much going down for me at the moment. I'm in quite a bad place. I haven't been able to find work, so I'm groveling around looking for money. And even though my mother left me some money from the house, my adopted mother, my brother has been sat in it and he's not selling it. So that is a point of contention, and I'm waiting here. We supposedly got a buyer, but they had a survey done and now we haven't heard back, which, I mean, who doesn't hear back from someone after they spent £600 on a survey? It's so odd, isn't it? Of course you hear back. Of course you hear back. But when my brother's in control of things, you don't hear back. And he carries on living there. And he's just going to be this sad old man with bright white hair living in Mummy's house that Mummy is dead. A little bit like Anthony Bates in Psycho. It just really reminds me of that. I'm surprised if he's got her upstairs in the attic dressed in an old dress or something, you know. I didn't actually check in the coffin in the church. But it wouldn't surprise me if he's kind of lugged her back and he has her upstairs, maybe in her old bedroom. And he's like putting his sitting breeches on so he can stay there with her. God, depressing. So that is where I am with the house at the moment. And I did need that money from the house, but I actually feel quite odd because I don't know where I'm going in my life at all. And the time is ticking on my clock, and the time is ticking, and I don't really know what direction to go in. I've done the journalism thing, and I probably didn't do it properly. I didn't go and study journalism. I just did it on the job, really. I was working as investigator for the News of the World and the Sunday Mirror, and I just went into the office and got stuck in and pushed myself forward and started doing stories. But the upshot is, without somebody feeding me stories, I pretty much, well, I do know what to do. You have to get a story first, and I do know how to write it up, but most journalists know how to look through a newspaper and find stories and find how to follow them up. And I haven't been doing that. I probably could do it actually, but I haven't been doing it, and I don't really want to do the PI thing. I did set up a website with it, but my heart's not in it because private investigations work is filthy and you're just poking your nose into other people's business. And I wrote another book, but I can't get an agent for it. And I don't really agree with self-publishing, although I did put it out there, but it's just nonsense. It doesn't kind of work. So I'm left at this real big crossroads of not knowing what to do. And somebody said, oh, the radio show's a good idea, but actually it's not a good idea. It's totally not a good idea. And I feel like I've wasted the past 6 months, maybe it's even a year. How scary that it's been a year of doing radio shows because it doesn't actually lead anywhere. And I really don't know where I'm going with this, and I really don't think it's fruitful. And if it's not fruitful, then what's the point in doing it? And even if it was fruitful and it wasn't earning money, at least you could say, well, I'll go and do a day job and I'll keep that going because that's important. It actually isn't important, and I'm not doing anything important. It's just like scally nonsense, really, I think, mostly. And so it's made me feel quite odd. And I've had flu for the last week, and I've been having that quiet where your body goes really, really quiet, and so you have to quieten your mind to match the fact that your body can't do much. And I've been quietening my mind and actually seeing that my life is just nonsense. I don't seem to have done anything really apart from frivolities and okay, yeah, I have got my byline in the Sunday Times quite a few times, and I have written for the News of the World and the Mail, and I have published twice. And really, it does make my trolls really, really upset because it's like, oh, you haven't done that. But I have, but it's like peanuts. And I wonder why they jump up and down about it because I wish I could get excited about it, knowing that I've done it. And my son says things like, well, you know you've done that though. And I'm like, yeah, but it's nothing really. It's like nothing. So I can't even get insight about what to do next from my trolls. They're so retarded. So I just feel bitter about everything. And I really don't know what direction to go in. And I really don't know how to save the planet either. And there's loads of people doing alternative radio where they're trying to save the planet and trying to, like Red Ice Radio. I was listening to Red Ice Radio last night, and that guy was talking to John Lamb Lash, and I actually did think I emailed the guy to ask him to come on the show, but now I think of it, I took down his email and I didn't send. Anyway, I'd like John Lamb Lash to come on my show. And interestingly, he was talking about the Archons, and he was talking about Colin Wilson, how he knew Colin Wilson, and I was friends with Colin Wilson for a long, long time, and I used to go down and stay in his chalets. He had a house in Cornwall, and he had chalets, and sounds grand, but it was kind of rough. And I used to go down there. Went down there with a boyfriend. I went down there with two different boyfriends. Went down there with one boyfriend, Ray, and he was quite interested to meet Colin Wilson. He was quite impressed that I knew him. So we all sat around talking about being an outsider, and I suppose it was quite fun, really. And then I went down there with another boyfriend who was an alcoholic, and Colin gave him a bottle of wine, and he went into the chalet with Steve. And Steve then started getting really angry about the fact I'd been there with Ray. And, oh, you really love him, don't you still love him? And I was like, well, no, I don't. And then he proceeded to punch me in the mouth, complete with blood flying everywhere. It was quite horrid. And then I had to leave in the middle of the night, skidded out there in my car, my little beaten up Austin, and didn't know where the hell I was. And then Colin wrote me a letter. He was really angry with me. He was like, I think that you like really tough guys, but you can't handle them, can you? It was quite annoying. It's quite condescending since he'd given this guy who I told him was an alcoholic a load of Burgundy wine. But there we are. We had a kind of hate-filled relationship. And then when I made it in Fleet Street and I had friends, decent friends, he decided then to, when he was asked, I introduced him to the Moors murderer, and then after he persuaded the Moors murderer, Brady, to write a book, then the Morse murderer asked him to do an intro, and then he couldn't think of anything but talking about me. And he sent me an email, and I said, no, you're not going to do that. And he was like, no, yes, I have. It's already gone to print. And I said, no, I've made it now. I don't want someone talking about me like in that ridiculous way. And he said, no, I'm going to. And gosh, it was really awful. I fought him for so hard and so long, and I moaned about him, and I was going back and fro interviewing the real IRA. And next thing, I don't think I'm on mute. How about now? How about now? How about now? Good. Okay. Oh, I'm really loud. Okay, sorry. I obviously need a producer. It's Joanna Hart, the Joanna Hart Show. And I've been rambling for 20 minutes and nobody's been hearing me. That's quite scary to me. I actually can't hear myself in my own ears, but I think my headphones aren't working for some unknown reason. Well, it's... Oh, I can hear myself a lot better. Well, that's a bit better. I can hear myself a bit better now. Somebody, obviously my son, has been fiddling with my my microphone. Well, this is going to be... Oh, I'm good now. Okay, sorry. I have had a whole 20 minutes of talking, and I haven't even been on air. Wow, it's really scary. Yeah, okay. I was basically doing an update. I don't know if many people heard. I was doing an update talking about future guests and talking about the point of having a radio show and wondering if I'm doing the right thing, having a radio show and creating purpose with a radio show, because it seems to me that there's no point in doing it unless there's unless one is saying something. I was listening to John Lamb Lash on Red Ice Radio. That guy seems to get it right somehow on Red Ice Radio. Makes him quite irritating. When I think of him, even I feel irritated because he's doing it right, and I'm not doing it right. But never mind. He had John Lamb Lash, and I was going to invite him on my show. I got to the point of writing down his email. That was as far as I got, actually. And I suppose if one isn't sorted financially, then, and you're sort of having a run around, sort of trying to get sorted financially, it's quite hard then to do a radio show because you're having to worry about other things. And then you're thinking, well, I can't put a lot into the radio show because I really have other things that I have to take care of. My son, for instance, I'm responsible for a child and I don't have support or anything. It's just me, basically. So I don't ever stop. And I don't ever stop thinking, right, he should have this, he should have this, he should have this. And I'm in like a little guinea pig on a little wheel. And I'm thinking, is the radio show productive? Is it doing something for the world? And if it isn't, it's probably best for me to not bother doing it because I don't want to do it if it's all about ego. And I was listening to John Lash, who coincidentally knew as I was sharing... Sorry, someone just put something. I was talking fine. Oh, that's good. Okay. My producer, Patrick English, is here. Obviously, I can't cope without him. He said he heard the Colin Wilson thing. I was moaning about Colin Wilson. Colin Wilson really, although he wrote The Outsider, he didn't really do much in life. He didn't really stand for much. And my good friend Hugh Burnett died, and Hugh Burnett was quite a famous BBC producer, and he got a whole page in the Telegraph for his obituary. And but I kind of was saying to a friend of mine that really nobody really mourned him that much. I mean, it was basically really me. But and he said it's because he didn't stand for something. And I really do hear that. And I think that you have to stand for something in life, especially now as things are getting quite dark for everybody. And John Lash, who my producer said is not a favourite, but he was talking about the Archons. He does blame the Jews for everything, though, but he was talking about the Archons, and similarly, the Archons have infected the Jewish bloodline, and that is how they got inside humanity. And basically, now they're destroying Europe, which is true. It's quite scary to be in Europe. I'm in England. I'm unemployed in England, and I used to work in Fleet Street, and I've got my name on best-selling books. I can't get a job, and it's weird, you know. But then again, maybe my CV is too fancy. It says things like, you know, work for XMI6 agencies, interviewed the real IRA. Maybe it's overkill for the normal average factory, which I seem to be stuck applying to. I don't know, helping make chocolates and working on a checkout. I don't really hear anything back from my 30 CVs that go out per day. Excuse me, I'm just getting over flu. And so I was thinking about the radio show and whether it does have a purpose, or is it standing in my way of finding work, because I have a child to support without any support from his father. So I have to make sure he's got everything he needs. And we don't have our own home. We're not secure here. So actually he doesn't. So really I should be pedaling that bike continuously. And John Lash seems to have a point to his existence, because he lectures about the Archons and what they're doing. Oh, my producer says that he really likes Colin Wilson. Yeah, I was thinking actually, because John Lash was saying on the Red Ice show, oh, he was great friends with Colin Wilson, he's a genius. And I thought, well, I knew Colin really bloody well. I should talk about him more often, because I know people are interested, and I could maybe even read out the letters he sent me, because they were really interesting. I mean, there was a time when I went down to, when I was living in Brighton, where I just spent all my time writing to Colin, and quite amusingly, he found my life interesting, probably only because I knew Ian Brady, the Morse murderer. Well, maybe it wasn't. I mean, I like to think that he found me interesting anyway. And he said, oh, that I was a female outsider. And he said, write down about your life, write some, you know, write your life story and send me it in letters, send me, you know, 10 pages or 20 pages a time. So, and he said then he would help me write a book. And so he was encouraging me that I was a great writer, the new Edna O'Brien, according to him. So obviously I wanted to be a writer. So I spent ages handwriting, because I couldn't type. I didn't have a computer. Handwriting long my life story, basically. And I sent it to him. And then I sent him a big diary I had, all about my private thoughts, and I sent that off. And then I was talking to this boyfriend of mine, and I had already been to Colin Wilson's house, because I just upped and decided one day, because I'd been reading loads of his books, I upped and decided I would go and meet him in Cornwall. I think I had a dream about meeting him, and I thought, oh, I'm going to do that then. So I got on a train and I went to a pub in the where I knew where he lived, which was basically just Cornwall. And I had a few beers, and then I asked the girl in the pub, well, where does Colin Wilson, the writer, live? And she said, or that'll be Garnhaven, over in Garnhaven, over there in St. Austell. So I then got a train over there, and I must have bought another beer to drink on the train. And I got to this pub in Garnhaven, and I went in there and I said, oh, I'm here. I think I said drunk by then. I think I said something like, oh, I'm here to see Colin Wilson. And the barmaid said, oh, he doesn't like fans coming to see him. And I said, no. I said, I'm invited, but I've lost the address. And she went, oh, well, I'll call you a cab to go there. And I thought, oh, this is crafty of me. So she called me a cab while I sat there drinking more beer, because I thought, what can I do when I actually face to face with him, because I was a little bit in love with him as well at the time. I certainly had a crush on him. And anyway, the cab came and I drank more beers. And then the cab driver basically dropped me at this house. It was in the middle of nowhere, and it was a modest house. It's more, I think it's a bungalow actually. It's 1 story high, and it's down a little private drive. So he dropped me at the top of the private drive, and or did he drop me at the door? Gosh, I can't remember. Anyway, lights came on, and this young man came out. And firstly, I thought it was him, but it wasn't. Turned out it was a friend of his son, Damon, and and he ushered me inside, bizarrely, inside the house. And then there was Colin's wife, Joy, and it turned out that Colin wasn't there. And she, Joy, was going, "Oh, does he know you're coming?" And I'm like, "Yes." I thought I might as well carry on the lie. And so anyway, they took me inside, and she fed me, bizarrely. She fed me cauliflower cheese. And then I just sat there talking to this boy who was Damon's friend. He was quite older. Maybe he was Sally's friend, the daughter. And we were having quite a nice time. And I said, "Oh, I've only come because I know the Moors murderer, Brady." And I said, "Look, here's a letter. It's proof." And I sort of fished out a letter. I thought, well, maybe, this will soothe the fact that I've bullshitted my way into his front living room. And I thought he was going to come home at any moment. And I thought this letter will probably help, confuse the issue of the fact that I haven't actually been invited. So then they read the letter, and I said, "Oh, I'll leave it." And they said, "Oh, he's not going to be home now till late, obviously." And I think she said something like, "Did I want to stay?" or something like that. And I said, "Oh, no, I'm booked into a hotel." Or did she find a hotel? God, I can't remember. It's so long ago. But anyway, I found myself at a local hotel. And I slept, and I woke up next morning, and I thought, "Oh, great. Wow, that's so exciting." I went and sat in Colin Wilson's house, the great Colin Wilson, and how exciting. What an exciting life I live. And actually, I think I rang my boyfriend and said, "Yeah, I got in this house. Gosh, I actually sat on the settee where he sat." And the phone rang, and it was the hotel owner, and he said, "Colin Wilson's waiting for you in reception." And I'm like, "Oh my God." I'm sure I've shared this on the radio before, but never mind. And I said, "Oh, I'm just trying to get one up on John Lamb Lash." So I said, "Oh my God." And I couldn't believe it. And I was actually flowing around the hotel room thinking, what shall I wear? And most importantly, this seemed to be a priority in my mind back then, what colour lipstick to put on. It really seemed like important. I don't know why, because I put bright pink on, looked at myself and thought, no, look a bit like a tart. And I rubbed it off, and then I put brown on. I thought, no, maybe tarty is better. Maybe he'll like me more if I'm a bit tarty. So I rubbed off the brown, put the pink on, and then thought, no, maybe he'll think I'm thick. And I rubbed it off again. Anyway, the phone rang again, and it was the manager, hotel manager. "Oh, Mr. Wilson's been waiting now an hour, and he's really got to go. He's got to do some filming." I'm like, "Oh," and I still, like, my mouth had gone smoochy from rubbing off lipstick and putting it on again. So I wasn't even dressed. And so then I just grabbed my clothes and stuffed my things. And at that point, I think I went with the pink. And there he was down in reception. I couldn't really believe that he was there for me. I remember thinking that it was some mistake, and he was going to say, "Oh, I thought you were somebody I knew." And I just felt like a complete fraud. But he seemed okay. And he put me in his car, and he was actually filming somewhere, and he took me with him. And then I remember thinking that he was going to get rid of me, but then he was like, "Oh, you can stay in our chalet tonight." And he said, "You can come out for drinks with us and have dinner with us." And I'm like, wow, I just couldn't believe it. I did want alcohol at that point because I was like quite overwhelmed. And seemingly, interestingly, I had been in the newspapers a year or so, maybe 2 years. Yeah, it was 2 years, because I went to New York after that. So maybe it was about 3 years or maybe more after when I was in the newspapers, when Phil Hall wrote that ridiculous story about me being related to the Moors murder. Anyway, Colin Wilson had cut out the front page of the People, and he'd kept it. And when he brought me back to his house that afternoon, and he said, "This is you, isn't it? This is you." He got really excited. He said, "I can't believe it's you." And I'm like, "I can't believe you've cut that bullshit story out of the newspaper." And he was like quite excited to meet me, which is kind of really weird. And then we went out. We went out for a drink in the pub, and of course his friends were there. And of course I'd read all his books, so there was somebody there talking about his books, and every time they talked about one certain book, I was like, "Oh, I've read that. I've read that. I've read The Personality Surgeon. I've read this one. I've read that one." And so eventually, anyway, I stayed over, and eventually I'd been going back and forth quite a few times and stayed up a few times, and we'd been writing quite intensely. And then he told me to write down my life story. And I had this boyfriend at the time called Ray. And he said, and I told him all Ray's business, and he said to me, no, I said to Ray that I was really upset that I'd sent Colin my private diary, and I thought he was going to publish it, and I felt really suspicious that he was going to make money out of me, because I felt I had this fascinating story about my life and how I'd met this creepy serial killer, Brady, and that, wasn't my life story so fascinating, because Colin was making out it was so fascinating. And so I said to this boyfriend, who was built like a brick shit house, he was like, God, really huge. I said to him, "I think Colin is ripping me off. I think he's stealing my work." I actually thought that. No, I really did think that. I still do think that, but never mind. I won't say that on air. But so what we did, 1:00 in the morning, we got in Ray's, what was he driving? I think it was a TR7. We got in a TR7, and actually he had a friend who used to come over with him, Jim, and Jim had to fit in the boot. Was it a TR7? It was some kind of car that had a really tiny boot, and bizarrely, Jim got into the boot all this way to Cornwall. We drove and drove and drove. Gosh, we drove, and I think we got there in the early hours of the morning or something like that, and knocked up Colin Wilson. And anyway, he put us in one of his chalets, and then the next morning, I said to Colin, "I want all my stuff back. I want everything, because I think you're stealing from me, and you're going to write a book about me, and I want to write a book about me." And so he went off, and he said, "No, I haven't got your stuff." He said, "I can't even find it." So he went off, he disappeared, and while I was busy whispering in his front living room that to my ex Ray to search the place and to grab Colin and to threaten him and all sorts, it was really this major scene. And then I started hunting everywhere, and it was quite rude. You know, at one point he'd been a hero. The next point I was like whispering to this big lug boyfriend that he should threaten him and search the gaff in his living room. Quite weird, isn't it? And so I looked under Colin's chair, bizarrely. I looked under his armchair, and there was my private diary that I'd sent him. And so I was like, "Oh, I found it." And I was quite overjoyed when I found it. And we shut off and we left. And I had the cheek to still write to Colin and sort of blame him for us falling out. And we wrote for a while. And then when I wrote my book, which was supposed to be called The Man in the Picture, he wrote an introduction for it, and then the publisher rudely announced that it should be called The Devil's Daughter. I'd already signed it over to him, so I had no choice. And Colin didn't like him. I ended up getting no money from the sale of the book. Nothing, just nothing. And I even went on TV to advertise it. I went on the Anne Diamond show, and Colin wrote the intro, and bizarrely I got a whole page review in the Daily Mail because Colin had written the intro. Excuse me. And he said, "Keep going with your writing." And then I tried to sell No, it was while I was trying to sell that book. I had a meeting with Mark Barty King of Bantam, and he came along and said, well, I don't think I can do anything with your biography because you're not famous. He said, besides that, he said, I've got a book written by Colin Wilson on my desk, which is your life story called The Female Outsider. I couldn't believe it. So all my suspicions were right. I said, what does it say about me? Was it nice things? And he said, well, it's just your life story. He said, but it starts off talking about all these women that are outsiders, and one of them is Joan of Arc. So that was it for me. I was like, oh, I didn't feel annoyed that he'd done it. I just kind of really felt really, really flattered, actually. I suppose because he couldn't get it published, it's stuffed in a drawer somewhere at his house, and he's dead now. But after he thought that I threatened him with the Real IRA, I don't think we were ever going to get speaking again, actually. Because there was another little part of that story. When we went for a walk one afternoon, he kissed me. Oh, God, is his wife still alive? I'm not really even sure, but I'm sure she won't be listening to this. He actually kissed me, but then I was really young and he was kind of old. So I suppose guys do that if they've got fans. He was doing up my coat. There we were standing on the rocks, and he just mooched down and kissed me. And I didn't find it that odd. Men were always doing that to me, probably because I looked a bit of a vacant blonde that anybody could swoop down on my mouth. So that was quite odd. I remember thinking that his wife knew when we came back to the house. She had it written all over her face that she knew. So I said something about, God, Colin walked really fast. I could barely catch up with him. And then I almost saw relief written all over her face. But it was a lie because he didn't walk off ahead. He stayed with me on the cliffs. But it was only a kiss. But then he told me a really weird story, a very sexual story in the car when he was trying to take me back and something like that. And I remember laughing, and he said, why are you laughing? And I was laughing because I couldn't believe that he was my hero and he was clearly telling me some kind of sexual story. And I found it quite bizarre that he fancied me, because I thought, hang on, you're my hero and yet you fancy me. And I couldn't really get my head around the whole thing, because if you look up to someone for so long and you read their books, it's quite odd when they're lunging at you and telling you dirty stories. You kind of think, what? Kind of thought maybe I was hearing things or something, but then it was probably because I was just young at the time. So Colin and I went our separate ways, and the last thing was when he said I'd got the Real IRA to threaten him, and I said, well, okay, but no, I didn't. And are you going to take my name out of that book? And he didn't take my name out. So Brady's book, which is called The Gates of Janus, has an introduction by Colin Wilson, which is all about me and all about him going to the hotel the next morning. And he didn't take my name out. I think he put, he just called me Christine. He put something bizarre, like, we shall call her Christine. And I'm, what? And then he goes on and mentions the title of the goddamn book anyway. And then I still was fighting him to change that. I said, look, you ruined my life. I've got a life. I don't want people to know that I ever wrote to Brady or connect me with that stupid book. The Devil's Daughter, I'd made a place for myself in Fleet Street, so you're going to ruin my life. And he didn't seem to care. So actually, I think at that point, I might have rung his wife and told her about the kiss. I think I did, actually. I remember being just ragingly angry, and I said that. And I think I rang her and told her. I think I rang her and said, there's something you should know. And I told her. And then I sent him an email and said, oh, I just told your wife. And he said, oh, do you get drunk and write emails? And I went, no, I'm just really angry with you. And I was livid. And then I got a phone call. Then Brady's book came out. Ian Brady, this piece of shit killer, his book came out. And who rang me but my very good friend at the time, who was working for, I think, Sunday Mirror, reporter called Fiona Whitty, and she went, "Oh my God, everyone's saying it's you." And I'm like, "What do you mean? You in the book, Ian Brady, you? Oh my God." And I'm like, "Oh." She goes, "We're going for a drink now. Everyone wants to know. Tell me all about it." And yeah, that was it. I was, I'd found this life, and it was just punctured in the heart by Colin, because he had to tell the story of arriving at the goddamn hotel to meet me. It was kind of pointless, kind of a shit story, but he wanted to tell it. So he ruined my life. And yes, I did carry on working at the News of the World, and I did carry on hanging out with the Sunday Mirror lot, but they knew that dirty secret about me, that I once visited a serial killer, and I just felt dirty somehow. I felt like not a proper person. And yeah, I just didn't like it. Even though Greg Miskiw at the News of the World knew about it, there's something about the News of the World. They kind of always like to know your worst secrets. And then they sort of celebrate them somehow, like they'll whisper it in your ear at a party. Like Alex Marinchek would come over and say, "How's Ian Brady then? Been to see him lately?" Or something like that. Or his favourite one, I used to have a tattoo that was covered by a plaster, and he would announce it if there was any good-looking guys about. "Oh, Christine, your plaster, it's got a tattoo on, just take it off." So I actually had to go to the trouble of getting my tattoo actually cut out. So there was a scar. But then he used to point at the scar and say, "Look, everyone." So where Christine tried to hide her working class past by getting her tattoo cut out in it. So the News of the World, that's what they were like, actually. And I remember Alex Marinchek, when he was leaving, he had a leaving do, and they made a mock-up paper of him where he was on the front page with a picture of him and a headline. And he held it up and he said to me, "Look, Christine, I'm like you now. I am Brady's daughter." Ha ha ha. So yeah, they like that, and they never let me forget. But the crowd at the Sunday Mirror didn't know, and they were my friends and my peers, and Colin urinated on that. So that was it then. The great friendship hit the dust. And yeah. And I heard he died. I heard he died. And I think it was before I got him for the Kill published. I sent him Searching for Daddy, which is published by Hodder, and I said, "Oh, I finally made it," even though I felt I hadn't made it. And then In for the Kill. And I think I put on it, "I've really made it now, just like you, a true crime writer. Look, Kenneth Bianchi." And yeah, I knew I hadn't made it, but I think he got that before he died. I'm pretty damn sure. And I said something like, "You can write to me if you like. Now we're peers and equals," because I'm a true crime writer too. And I just had so much anger and hatred for him. And then I heard he was dead. And actually felt pleased he was dead. Now I come to remember all this. I felt pleased. I thought, "Good, you're dead. You took my friends away from me. You took Dave Dillon and Matthew Bell and all of them, and they liked me. And I might have married one of them, but you had to come in and dish up my past and dish up, ooh, look what she used to do." And it really pissed me off, and nothing would make you change that in the goddamn book. It's just a case of a name. You only have to put Mary Ann or Sue Ellen, or what do you have to put my name? Obviously, Fleet Street are going to wonder who the hell I was. He made me sound so fascinating. Of course, everyone's going to, "Oh, who's that?" And how long did it take Fiona Whitty to find out? Like 5 minutes. And then everyone knew it was me. And how did I feel? How dirty did I feel? Mentioned in the intro to the book about a dirty serial killer. How did I feel when at that point I was living in a penthouse flat and tripping the light fantastic and becoming a journalist? Well, I felt really bad, I can tell you. Really bad. So when I heard Colin Wilson was dead, I was pleased. So why haven't I shared on air that I knew him, like John Lamb Lash, talking about the Archons, because I hate his goddamn guts. I really do. And whoever it was that rang him and said bad things, you better, obviously he didn't listen, but whoever it was, then good. But it didn't have anything to do with me. So that was the Colin Wilson story. But I was sharing about the point of the radio show and the direction to take it in, and listening to John on Red Ice Radio. It was interesting, and then John Lamb Lash seems to say that the Archons, who were talked about in the Nag Hammadi texts, the Gnostic texts. What did everyone do before these Gnostic texts came along? I think they're discovered recently, weren't they? But everybody's talking about them now, and I heard Eve Logan talking about them. I've read them too. They didn't make much sense to me, but I did rent them out from the library and read them a long while ago, actually, because I saw somebody was talking about the Archons, and I thought, but they don't actually say much about them, just seemingly that they've been infected by them. And according to John, and I don't know where he got that info from, they can only infect a certain bloodline, and John has decided that's the Jews. I think there was he actually referred to it, that he had found it in the text, that they said about the certain bloodline, and that is the certain bloodline that they can ride on. And he believes that is the Jews, and he believes that the Jews now are trying to destroy Europe. And I have to say, living in Europe as someone who's unemployed and who bizarrely has had quite a glittering career, and I can't even get a job as a checkout girl, because there's so many people come here. I have nothing against anybody from Eastern Europe. I really like them, but there's not enough room. There's not enough jobs to go round. So they've swamped the they've swamped the job market, and there's none left to go round. And still we invite more people from Eastern Europe who have flocked here. I think Poland must be empty. It really must be. I'm not being rude here or racist, but it must be empty because they're all here. And that was thanks to us being in the EU. And there's all these towns in Wales that are flocked by everyone from Eastern Europe. And it's okay for the more powerful people in middle class areas because they haven't come there, but they don't see it, that it can be very scary to go somewhere and have all different people that are foreign. It can be like, ooh, what's going on? I mean, my area where I grew up was a very white area, and now it's just pure Asian. If I walk through it, and it's a very big place, I feel stupid. I feel like, oh, what am I doing here? Am I, do I like Asian men? Is that why I'm here? Because you do get looked at a bit as if, look at her. Why is she here? Because it's Asian, and all the shops are now Asian. And the shop where I got my first bra from, I got a little chaining bra, a little Lavelle bra, and I never forget them. They were made from stocking material, and they were so nice. My friend had a red one. My mother wouldn't let me get the red one. She said, no, not red, as if I was asking for, I don't know, one with a little, I don't know, missing nipple or something. I mean, what's wrong with red, for God's sake? But she kind of, oh, no, not red. No, don't say that again. But my best friend Margaret, her mother wasn't insane. She was allowed a red one. I was only allowed a white one. But my best friend Margaret had green, red, all the colours under the sun, just like everyone else. But no, I was only allowed a white one. But this little bra shop, it was so beautiful, called Lavelle's. And that's gone now. It's Indian tandoori. And all the other shops are, sweets or, Indian sweets, whatever. I like Asians. They're fascinating people. But it's just like, oh, it's weird that I can't go down memory lane because everything's like I'm in Bombay. It really is. And it's weird. And now it will be the same with areas that will be all Polish. And I know it's nice to have a melting pot, but you do want something of one's own. And according to John Lamb Lash, this is the plot of the Jews to wipe out the culture of the white man. So just like to say with my hand up at the front, that is going on because my bra shop is gone. So I don't have my culture. I don't have my little place where I can go and, go and reminisce and stuff. Or the town where I grew up is gone now. And it's sad, really. And actually, my mother's house, my adoptive mother's house, that is the last white person's house in that whole area. And, it's been bought by an Asian guy who owns 3 houses. So that's just another one he's picking up. And my brother and I don't have any houses. We don't have anything, actually. It's weird, isn't it? I don't know what that says. Does that say lazy white people? Because I've worked, I just came out of the womb working, really, and I do like to work. And I love work. I'm not one for socializing. I don't like socializing. It's a waste of time. And I don't really like relaxing. I feel guilty. So I really like working. So I don't understand why I haven't got... Well, I do. I didn't buy one. You're supposed to buy one. I was too busy working. So I didn't buy one like an ass. Then when I got unemployed, any savings I got, went through really, really quickly. Any book money really, really quickly. And, so I haven't got a pot to piss in. And, had I have at least bought a house, I'd own it by now, obviously, rather than renting. But that's not having that mind. But the Asian mind knows about, oh, you should get that, you should get this, you should get that, you should get this, more than the white man knows. The white man is more laid back and less on the economic ball, which I don't know, doesn't say it's not a bad thing, is it? It's just different races. Different races are different. Different races are different things. And I think sometimes the white man can be looking up at the stars and can be sitting there writing poetry and not really busy being so much. And I don't know if I agree with busy being. I know the black man, the Afro-Americans and Jamaicans also, they're not one for amassing loads of properties. They're very laid back and chilled and sort of, chilling, really. And it's kind of good to get in touch with your soul. And so we get kind of swamped and pushed out.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Go, Christine, go. Unless she got up from the chair for a second. This is Patrick English. You're listening to Revolution Radio, and this is freedomslips.com, where you find it. We're the biggest listener user station on the internet. We need $2,650 every 30-day cycle to keep the station running, to pay for the servers, to pay the electric bills. This doesn't pay any of us. We just do it because we like it. We need about $88 a day, and we're at $4.98, so we're starting to fall behind just a little bit, but we thank you very, very much for those of you who have contributed. We have several offers for those who are able to give $100. You'll get a jumbo seed pack, and $50 gets you the bullet drive. I think there's a silver round for $75. I need to nail that down, but I think there is. In any case, especially the silver rounds, this is USA only. The jumbo seed packs, if you're out of country, please inquire. The bullet drive can probably go anywhere. Make sure and write your mailing address so that we can get it to you. That's very important. And wait, hang on. I'm writing something. I just told her that we're ready to have her come.
Oh, hi everyone. It's Christine Joanna Hart, and excuse me, I'm very coffee tonight. I'm getting over flu, which I've had for a week. So I'm lucky to be here. I'm not sleeping at nights because I'm coughing too much, and I haven't taken the antibiotics because I've got through the flu, and if I'm just left with a cough, then fine. But it's really bad. It's one of those coughs that go on and on. So I don't sleep at night. Pity now, please pity me. I'm thinking of that little violin playing. If I had violin music, I'd be playing it now. But my throat's really sore and I'm having it bad. Anyway, I was just ribbing on Colin Wilson. I was moved by John Lamb Lash's reminiscing on Colin, and I thought, well, I've got quite a few Colin Wilson stories to tell. So I was sharing my Colin Wilson stories. So to keep it in the theme of Colin and John Lamb Lash, I was talking about we're going to have a call-in soon, in excuse me, after about 10 minutes. I was thinking about Europe. So John Lamb Lash, the Jews, according to him, the Jews are actually the Archons because they've already hosted on their bodies, and now they're destroying the Goyim from the inside. They're starting with the white man. Actually, I suppose the white man is the Goyim. So starting with us first, and they're starting with Europe before they get to America. And they're swamping us with everyone from Eastern Europe. Just like to let the Jews know, if it is them, their plan is working. It's shit being here. There's no work, and everywhere's Polish. If it's not Asian, it's Polish. So there's no culture left. You've done it, and well done. There's absolutely nothing here, nothing. And I think a lot of that might be, I mean, I had a spiritual experience. I do a lot of astral traveling, shamanism, really journeying. And I journeyed one night and came face to face with a giant who was fighting a serpent dragon. And he communicated to me that he was Odin, and I felt such love. Then I've been looking into... I was looking into Odinism, and the Odin thing has stayed with me. And interestingly, the white people of England, they did come from these other areas that are Nordic, and, they probably are all Odin's children. And I actually do believe that, I'm a Monarch child. I mean, my book, Vatican-born Monarch, I'm going to put it on Amazon soon, my life story. What they did, I came through the Jesuit Catholic orphanage, and I was put on the Monarch programs and wasted my life, really, to someone else's agenda. And what I think they do is they take a certain bloodline, they take the Aryan Nordic, probably Odin's children, and they tie them up in the Monarch programs, because James Casbolt said it's got a link to Nazism. That is the link to Nazism, I would say, that that particular race is probably psychic, and the Archonic race, or the Jewish race, has a problem with them. There has seemingly been a problem, hasn't there? Because Hitler was burning the Jews. So there's been been quite a lot of to and fro between those two races. So now, according to John Lamb Lash, the Jewish are destroying the Nordics, the Aryan white man in Europe, and that's going down now. I can testify that it's going down shit here. So I'd like to know what's really going on. I mean, then I was reading Eric Phelps's book, Vatican Assassins. He believes it's the Jesuits, and I came through a Jesuit orphanage, so I would kind of agree with that. But where are they? The Jesuits don't really seem to have all the money unless they're in league with the Jewish people, the Zionists. I don't know. Are they linked at a certain high level? There's the Freemasons. I don't know. I have no idea. Okay, so I'm confused, confused.com, and I would like some ring-ins if anybody's out there. If anybody's out there, if they want to call in. I don't know if I've got the number. I'm sure my producer will give it to me. My throat is so dry.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Put it in chat. I don't know how much longer I could talk for because I'm sick here. And I think this is killing me, and I do want to be able to sleep tonight, and I haven't been able to sleep because I've just been coughing so much, and I think if I really dry out my throat, then I'll just be coughing and I won't sleep. So I want to be careful to not do that. So I don't know if I might have to cut the show short. But I would like my radio show to be something like, not really like Red Ice Radio, but something like John Lash is putting out. I'm not saying the Jews are responsible for anything, but just kind of, I mean, he's out there saying that he wants to think of a solution to the problem, and he believes the solution to the problem is a supernatural answer, conclusion, antidote, whatever. And he believes that shamanic journeying is the answer. I don't know about that. I find that interesting, and I thought about that, and I'm not one of these people that think that the astral, I didn't think that the astral was on lockdown by the Archons or the evil ones, and then I normally do, I'm not that awake on the astral. Obviously I had a part of me that was shaven off, as Russ Dizdar calls it, satanic super soldiers. They're not satanic, Russ. I've asked Russ Dizdar to come on his show a few times, but no response. But never mind, to thrash this out of him. He calls people that have had the Monarch programs done because he knows that they shave off parts and then train them in the astral to use them as warriors, and we don't actually get our parts back because they've harvested our energy in the Monarch programs, which is true. And he says that that part of us is programmed to fight for them, but no, actually, Russ, darling, we can get those parts back, and we can get them back using the blood of Christ. And I am working on getting my part back, but a lot of it is becoming more and more awake in the astral, so I'm working on that. And a friend said to me about going into the astral and asking questions, and I do meet with different entities there, and some of them in a human form, and a lot of them are quite senior. Some of them aren't in human form. Some of them are quite just really powerful entities, knocked across and to treat respectfully, because to them you're just like an ant. And this I called out in the astral to know the truth about my mother's house. My brother won't sell it, and there's some money there for me, not much, but I'm desperate at the moment. And there seems to be on lockdown. Like, I can't envisage the sale going through. Sales haven't been going through. And so I asked what was really happening. Anyway, this entity appeared to me. He was a humanoid entity, and he said it's because of the cult that the money in my mother's will was left to the cult, which it was left to the Jesuit orphanage me and my brother came from. It was left to the Catholic Church, the Claretians. It was left to the Daughters of St. Paul in Rome, which my aunt was from, and it was left to oh God, where's the other places? Another Catholic, something else Catholic. And he said that because I was going to fight those things, and I had already been to see the Claretian fathers because I know them, and I had already been to see the Daughters of St. Paul because although my aunt is dead, I still know them. And also my orphanage, which is now the Catholic Children's Society, was the Crusades of Rescue. I've spoken to them, and I basically said to them, you're not getting the money. That's mine, because I need it. And this entity said to me on the astral that he had put the house on lockdown and that it wouldn't go through, and I wouldn't even get any money from it because I was going to fight it, and so that's what they had done. And he showed me about this, and okay, it might have been a demon lying, but he showed me about the Citadel, the Catholic, not just Catholic, but it was a whole cabal they had there in the astral. The whole of the astral seems to be on the lockdown by some kind of cabal, and it just seemed to me like it's Catholic, even though there were Hollywood stars involved and Hollywood. I basically saw quite a lot, and then he showed me the grid, and basically everyone, it's just like a kind of a radar. You can see anybody, and anybody that kind of steps out of there or tries to rise higher in a consciousness way, they're alerted. They can just see it. And we're basically screwed, and we're screwed down here, the lower, and we're screwed in the astral because they've taken it over. The only choice we've got is to rise higher to the mental plane. But I was reading the other day by Branton, who had some correspondence with James Casbolt. He said that they have taken it over up to the second heaven, and only the areas beyond that is clean. So what chance have we got of, well, we have got a chance. We can keep close to Christ, but it's not good really. And John Lamb Lash was saying we have to think of a way to solve it astrally, but seems like it's unlocked. Seems like they thought of that one before we thought of it. See, it's a problem if you're dealing with like supernatural powers that are more than likely fallen angels, that they know far more than us because they're angelic beings and we're just humans. So we're like dogs, and they are all powerful. And some of them are even lesser gods, that we don't even know about. Like, I didn't even know that Satan, Lucifer, not Lucifer, is he the fallen angel? But one of the ones that took over the underworld is the Nakash. And the Nakash, according to Mike Kaiser, is a lesser god, and it's the lesser god who is the god of this world and has taken over the astral. So we're dealing with a lesser god, so we're actually dealing with a god. So how much more can they have us as a humanity on lockdown, since we took the bite of the apple, on lockdown? I mean, we're not going to get out because they're more powerful. So it's a bit like a puppy stuck in a jail of a giant. The puppy can, scratch at one of the bars, but that's as far as we're going to get, because really we're not even going to get outside the bars in the jail. We're not going to get outside the jail. We're not going to see what we're dealing with because we're dealing with it blind. I think a good way might be for the super soldiers that we have been put through the Monarch programs just to fight the wars in the astrals, to find out about the wars and to kind of get our parts back and to kind of clean them up. But there's nobody offering to do that. I know Russ Dizdar, all he's doing is demonizing anybody that's had that done to them with his videos. Everyone can see them on YouTube, called Chosen Ones. And the the Black Awakening, the rise of the super soldiers. I would say the rise and awakening of the super soldiers is a good thing, because that's the only hope that we've got to conquer stuff in the astral, the mental, and the causal, and the first and second heavens, is people that have been let in on what's going on and have been fighting wars up there for quite some time. But he might have other ideas. But I don't know if that man's going to talk to me. But my point was that I would like to have my radio show where I'm doing something like John Lamb Lash, where I'm doing something important, not just having guests on every week that I might as well be talking about skirts or blouses or knickers or taco. It's just like, what's the point? So if I can't get that together, then there's no point in me doing shows. So I'm going to try and get that together. I'm going to try and do something, but I'm not sure what. But it probably take me getting over the flu. I can hardly breathe. Oh, so I don't know if there's any callers coming on. Oh gosh, is there any callers? Because if there's no callers, Patrick, I might have to go and get a cup of tea and put something on my chest, because I think I've talked myself out. Patrick, are you there? I'm just trying to talk to my producer, everybody, because I don't think I can talk anymore.
I don't think you can hear me.
I don't think I can talk anymore. Patrick?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think he can come on air either. I feel like I'm letting everybody down, but no, and you can't hear me on my mic. Oh dear. Oh dear. Can people hear me? I think they can. I'm just typing to him now. I don't get what's gone on. How weird. Over the radio, yes. Okay, I don't know what's going on. I'll try and talk some more, but Jesus, I really am dry. My throat is dry, and I don't know if I'm helping anybody. I'll blither on then for a bit longer. Yeah, Miles. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Miles Johnson has got his conference coming up in August. I've agreed to speak there. So I am. Although I don't really know what to talk about. I thought maybe I'd talk about my life and being a monarch. And then I could mention my book, Vatican Born Monarch, which will be on Amazon. But I don't know, is that rude to kind of just talk about myself? Will that help anybody? Or I could talk about shamanic journeying. Probably that might be best. That might be best. Also, does one want to come on air and talk about? Thing is, when you talk about going through the Monarch programs, it's something that we haven't got proof of, and I have this troll that follows me around everywhere, and he's like, "Oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that." I mean, imagine him finding my little lecture about the Monarch programs. He'd have a field day underneath. He'd be like, "Oh no, you didn't. You didn't do that. No. They didn't put you in parts. Oh, you liar, you liar, you liar. Oh, this author tells lies, lies, lies," which is his favorite thing to do, trying to get my attention because he's lonely. But you won't. He had a field day with that, and I have to think about him. I have to think about him because he wants me to think about him. I'm not going to leave him out there all alone, lonely. So I do give him moments of my time where I think about him. I think about his life and what he's doing now. And I often pry in on his little posts on Facebook and his little newspaper he has online, and I watch him like a mother. So anyway, not really a mother, a nurse Scratchard kind of figure, actually. So I'll be talking, hopefully not with a sore throat, at the conference. So I will probably share about shamanic journeying. I hope that will help people. I hope to get on my show Simon Buxton from the Shamanic Trust. I know Simon, and I'm sure he will come on to talk about shamanic journeying. I could talk myself about it, my own experiences. It's a weird thing. You basically put on the drumming music, and I have a problem getting in and out of my body that sometimes sometimes I just slip out, and other times I don't, but the shamans do it deliberately. And basically they put on the drumming music, and with the drumming music come out. the first time I did it, or tried to do it, I came out of my body, and I went up the center. They tell you to find a tree and then to either go up the center of the tree. To either go up the center of the tree, or you either go up into the upper world or down into the lower world. I would say the upper is the astral, but probably lower is the astral too. And the first time I did it, I called on my power animal, which at that time, because it changes, was a cheetah. And I went inside the body of the cheetah and bounded up the tree and went to an upper world. And I ran in the body of a cheetah and came face to face with some Indians who were drumming. And they fed me some stuff, and I could actually taste whatever it was the meat I was eating. They gave me some water to drink, and then I flew in the body of an eagle and something else, and I remember writing it down. But after that one time, and that was a couple of years ago, nothing else. It's really difficult. And Simon told me that it's difficult to just do it at will, but some people get to the point where they do it at will. I haven't been able to do that at will, but interestingly, some people can just tug you out. I find myself out and walking, but some people, I normally have to go with an entity or go with a figure. A figure from the astral will call my attention, like I'll be watching TV and they will call my attention, and I will make a note or acknowledge that they've got my attention, that later on when I'm lying down, then I will go and see what they want. And that normally happens, that then I can kind of latch on to their energy, like follow them like a bell, and kind of be with them and get out that way. But if they don't, then I have a problem just getting out by myself. Actually, I know there are people such as Dan Bolin who can go out, and he had that very interesting friend of his, Alex, and we don't talk that much anymore. He works with Duncan Cameron, and he did give me Duncan's contact details, but Duncan will only talk over a landline, and my landline is broken at the moment. It is connected. I do pay for it, but the actual phone bit, I could go and buy one, I suppose. So I haven't been able. He will only talk that way. So hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to Duncan. But Duncan has trained Alex, and Alex basically set a time and then came and took me out of my body at a certain time, which I thought was quite clever. Because when he first contacted me, I didn't really believe him. And I thought, oh, yeah, sure, no, you can't. And he said, yeah, a certain time, I can't remember what it was, 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., something early in the morning. And he said, I'll come and get you. I'll come and get you then. So I thought, yeah, sure you will. So I went, okay. And I remember looking at the clock and it got to that time and I was quite tired and I kind of drifted off. And then I felt a sensation of vomiting, and it was like I was vomiting up cough mixture. And then I found myself being pulled back along a timeline with quite a few people watching it. And basically, I do think it was a little bit to spy on my timeline, but never mind. He took me back into my childhood and then back right to when my mother was giving birth to me. And that was interesting because she was crying. And I always imagined her as being quite cold. And then I was taken and put through these, the programs, which I don't want to talk about. They are quite horrid. And then Alex said to whoever was there, does she have to see that? And they said, sadly, she does. But I know what went on when I was a child. So nothing is shocking about that, really. And then the experience I had with Colonel Aquino, and interestingly, the music that he likes, the Alice, the Alice, the Jefferson Star Plane, is it Jefferson something? They've used that for the new Alice movie. I haven't seen the film, but I do want to see the film quite badly. I do think they've got something in there that's some kind of trigger for people that that they fiddle with. I do, because when it was out, I felt a really strong surge inside me to go and see it, really strong. And I thought there's something in there that they put in there. Anyway, they used the music. I saw that in the trailer, and I don't really like being led by the nose like a sheep, so I've resisted going to see it. But Aquino, when I emailed him and asked him for an interview, what happened was he came to me like a rabbit. Basically, I was trying to get to sleep and there was this rabbit in my mind's eye, really, really strong. And I don't like rabbits, actually. I don't like furry little shit creatures. And it was so strong in my mind's eye. And I'd had it before. I had it when Nick Davis from The Guardian approached me to tell my story about phone hacking, because obviously I worked for the News of the World, and I'd introduced this character called John Boyle, who brought in the phone hacking, and of course his office boy Glenn Mulcair. They stole him, and that's when the shit hit the fan, because John Boyle was too smart ever to, number one, leave paperwork lying around, and number two, to hack Boyles. So they were so retarded, not only did they hack, they nicked a private investigator's little gopher that had trained up without John's security and intelligence. So the shit hit the fan, and Nick Davis came to me to ask me about Boyle, basically. And we met in a cafe, and he said, what do you know about Boyle? So I denied that I knew him, because this time it was really early on. But see, I think I was stupid. I probably should have, but it was scary in those early days. So I said, I don't know anyone called John Boyle. And he said, I know you do. I said, I don't, even though I did, obviously. And I'd gone out with him as well. I knew him really well. But he said to me, would I talk to him on record? He said, you don't have to say much, but just say a bit about you did blagging and stuff for the News of the World, and you used to be a private investigator. So I thought, as Nick was so nice, he is a nice guy. He's really nice. And as he's so nice, I would. This is before he asked me to spy, before he paid me money. He just said, would I do that? Would I talk to him on record? And I went home that night and I dreamt a really strong dream of white rabbits. And literally, all these white rabbits were in my dream. And I was following them down this little alleyway. And as I was following them, there was more underneath me. So it got like I was walking on their bodies. And I was crushing their little horrid white fur and their pink, ugly little eyes. And so it felt like I was walking on warm little bodies. It was horrible. And then in front of me, there was all these other white rabbits. And I understood at that point, knowing enough about the occult, that it was an occult dream. And it was a symbol for something else. That's what I thought. So sorry. So I said out loud to the rabbits, who are you? I shouted it. Who are you? Sorry. I shouted, who are you? And they turned around, they said, Murdoch's Empire. And I tore out of bed, got up, tore out of bed. I thought, there's no way I'm talking to... I'm not going to talk to Nick Davis. And I rang him, I said, I did a white rabbit dream. And they were all over me. And I'm scared of them. And he was like, what? And I said, I'm scared of the rabbits. But I was, even now I can remember that dream. It was frigging scary. And then the only rabbit thing I had, even though Douglas Dietrich said something to me about rabbits, and I can't remember what it was. I can't remember. We've fallen out now over something pathetic. I think it was about Aquino, because I carried on speaking to him and he agreed to come on the show, but everyone freaked out so much that I haven't even bothered going back to him, because everyone thinks it's a reason, and then someone said, you're a Satanist if you talk to him. So do you know what? I can't be bothered, because I don't think he'll say anything anyway. Anyway, I had emailed him at this first point, and this was trying to get to sleep, and this giant rabbit, and it was really real, and its pink nose was really real, and it was horrid. It made me feel sick, actually. It's like when you've been drinking and you go to sleep and you're trying to sleep and you think, I need to be sick because I drank too much. I don't drink, actually, since I've done primal therapy many years ago. Just have that on the record. And that's because it takes away the need for drink, because it's always about something. Anyway, but I do remember in my 20s being, going to parties, coming back, drinking too much, and knowing they think, I'm going to be sick, but you're so tired, you can't move. You think, I'm going to be sick, going to be sick. But you can't move. Be like, I'm going to be sick, going to be sick. And then the head starts throwing up pictures of like scrambled egg or poo or something vile, and then you know that you're going to vomit. Anyway, this is like the rabbit thing. It was so horrible that I couldn't get off to sleep, because if I went off to sleep, I was sort of going with this rabbit. And so it was really horrid. I could smell it, and it pink nose, pink little eyes, and its big white rabbit ears. Its big, spooky, horrid ears. And its fur, its silky white fur, short fur, bright white, short fur, little blue eyes, bluey pink, little round, not nice rabbit, horrid rabbit. So I went and splashed water on my face and lay down again. There it was again. And I couldn't believe it. And I laid down and oddly, at that point, I know people have heard this story before. Bad luck. You can turn off if you want. At the time, I was doing this therapy work in this group called Overcomers Ministry on Facebook. I was a member of. And a girl had said to me, do a diary about parts that you might have. And I could feel this part of me, see it in my mind's eye, that was like, I called her Ice because it seemed like she was, I couldn't reach her. She seemed like, almost like with no hair, but just sort of like frozen white, like in light, or seemed like it was ice. And I couldn't reach her, but oddly, it was like that part of me that was her shot up out of my body as soon as I let myself go into sleep, shot out and went after the rabbit, and the rabbit had shot off, and it just literally shot across ground for a really long distance, and that part of me shot after it, and clearly the rest of me must have followed. And next thing, after going quite a long distance across ground, really, really fast, it just went straight down, and down for a long, long way. And it was down it must have been a rabbit hole. It sounds so fucking, I swore. It sounds so Alice. Literally, I suppose it is Alice. It's so weird. And down, really down. And then bang, I hit the bottom. And Aquino was at the bottom. And people often ask, if I recount the story, how do you know it was him? Well, you do know someone's him. You can, the astral is something where you know through smell, you know through sounds, like a bell sound. Everyone has a chime, everyone has a note that's them. So if someone comes to me when I'm watching TV and interferes with me astrally, I can smell them. Like when I'm trying to watch TV, I can hear sort of a sound. There's a certain tone that I know an entity is trying to jog my attention somehow. So when I go to sleep, if I feel like it, I will make contact with them by following a sound, you see. And Aquino has a sound that I had picked up on because I'd read his writing. And so I knew it was him, even though I'd been blindfolded. And he said, and I told this story before, so I won't tell it again, about what did I want, and then showed me the shape, and then I said, Jesus Christ, and I came back to my bed. But since then, and I have spoke to him, I did go through a whole week of really bad stuff where he came every single night and pulled me out of my body. Literally, it was quite scary. I do know about... I do know about continued consciousness, and I have studied Ledbetter, and I was a member of the Theosophical Society for a long time, and I've read about the Great White Brotherhood and Masters in the Path, and the works of Blavatsky, Besant, E. Powell, Ledbetter. I've read them all years ago. And I know about continued consciousness. I don't really fancy it myself. I didn't think it would be horrid, but Aquino gave me continued consciousness. But it wasn't pleasant because as soon as I shut my eyes, it was like I didn't have the remote for my head. He had it and literally tugged me into a place. Firstly, he was questioning me about who am I and what was I doing, because I don't actually have that much of a clue. And that went on, and other stuff went on, and memories, really horrible memories, came back. And all I kept seeing was a little girl, and she was me, and she was walking away from me. She kept looking back, and every time she looked back, her face went from live flesh to that of a doll. And then I'd be shut in a room as a little girl with loads of these dolls. And all the dolls had plastic faces. But then when I went nearer to them, their eyes were real. And there were other little girls, and the little girls were all trapped behind these plastic faces, and they were trapped inside the dolls. And all you could see was their eyes. And I was one of them. And I went chasing after this girl. And whenever I caught up with her, she just changed into a doll. And it was horrible. And this went on for like a week. And eventually I stopped it. But I had to have help to stop it. And I won't go into how I did stop it. So this is how John thinks that he can conquer the Archons. Well, I think there's people like Aquino, I don't say it, the Americans say it differently, who have been working in that area for so long, for so many thousands of years, and their ilk, I think they're called Satanists, and they've been beavering away. Well, the rest of us haven't been beavering away. They've been beavering away, and they've built kingdoms there, basically, and they are adept at what's going on, whereas we aren't. But I think some certain religions, like the Theosophists, like the Indians, the Asians, and some Indians, they've been beavering away. And some of us, especially through the Roman Catholic Church and the thou must not go do anything spiritual. Even I know people have gone through the Monarch experience, even they, knowing about that, say that it's witchcraft to walk on the astral. It's not witchcraft. It's necessary and it's part of life. And then people start saying, oh, well, it's in the Bible, you shouldn't do that. Leave that power to Christ. No, actually, that's what they've told us. So we remain really, really small in our little grid, under the grid, while they are busy. They are busy getting to know everything. They have got continued consciousness. You can bet these Hollywood stars that have signed up to sell their soul to Satan, you can bet they've got continued consciousness, and it's probably more pleasurable. You can bet they are light years away from us, like, you know, that movie Inception, and they even knew everything about psychic spying and letting that guy have a private army in his consciousness. You can bet that they know so much more than we do, and probably so much more than John Lash does. Perhaps I'm wrong, but my own foray into the astral and with others that are adepts make me think that we know not very much. Then I think that I'm probably on lockdown. I've probably got a part of me that doesn't know a hell of a lot. I just can't access that part. Because they put that on lockdown somehow through the Monarch programs. It's really clever. So any of us that reincarnated who got power, such as the Nazis, and I do remember my past life as an SS officer, I do remember that, and that gets sharper and sharper every time. And I do remember certain people. There was a guy I had on my show 2 weeks ago. I remember him in that past life, and I remember that we were carrying around instruments at that Lewisburg castle, I can't say it properly, where we had portals to shining ones, literally really higher evolved beings who were helping us. And we were able to let the shining ones come inside us and channel them. And that's where we got. And then we were shut down shut down in some kind of way, just completely closed down, and then all of a sudden I'm reincarnated, but I'm put through shit. I'm put through the Monarch programs. I'm separated from my birth mother. My soul is beaten about. I'm abused. I'm split into parts. Parts are used. So I am not allowed to incarnate as whole, or I might be quite a giant spiritually. Certainly, I don't mean morally there. I don't mean like Mother Teresa. I mean psychically. I mean like someone like Ledbetter writing stuff like that, being useful on the planet. I'm not useful at all. My life hasn't been useful. I'm just a bloody joke, really. And it's because I believe they wipe our memories. So whatever we learn, we get our memories wiped and then chucked down again into this grid. The grid's over us, and that's where we live. While they are busy with all the upper higher worlds that they've got to themselves. And believe me, as above, so below. They are getting all sorts that go on up there. That means they get the high life down here. All sorts of power goes on in that cabal, which means they get favors here. So you may see the mansions and the Porsches and the stuff and think, oh, how come I haven't got that? Well, you haven't got that because you're not in the cults. You're not in the cults that are in the astral. I'm not, so go and join them. But this is how. This is how. So, if a certain race of humans who have colluded in all this, which clearly they have, basically they're going to be out of control, because basically the fallen angelic or archons, reptilians, dracos, whatever you want to call them, are more powerful than us. So they might have humans as minions and they might enjoy the high life, but at the end of the day, they want all trace of humanity gone, all trace of it. Doesn't matter if you're willing to kneel down and give them a good, whatever, you're going to get kicked over at the end of the day, because they don't want humanity at all. And I guess some humanity believe that they can evolve into being one of the fallen angelic. There must be something there that means they can give up their consciousness into the AI, into the infection, into the darkness. And I suppose that does appeal to some, because they become pure intelligence, and for them, that intellect, that thing, that that craving for that is what leads them to become Satanists, and they think that the rest of humanity doesn't really get what they are and how powerful it is. And there are many godly, lesser gods, obviously, the Nakash, really amazing powers, time travel, all of it, the whole thing, that make physical life look like a joke, look like being trapped in a little room. And those powers are there, but at the end of the day, they won't get eternal life in the higher heavens. They can only go so far. And they will be swallowed up eventually. And everything they love and know, but I suppose love isn't top of their list. I can see how it's seductive to go down that path, and I can see how humanity can get sucked away with that. But there is so much more. There is so much more beauty in the high heavens, just beyond our minds, even when they're in the astral and mental. Beyond that to be back with our Creator is the ultimate. Oh God. So I've talked for 2 hours, and I feel like hell. And I've actually scheduled an interview with somebody in America who's doing, a TV show about a crime that's gone on. There's been young men pushed in rivers in America and over here. And a very nice young girl who's a book writer who's written about this contacted me. She's got a deal with, who was it for? One of the major channels, I believe. And they want to do a documentary about her book. And she asked, do I want to come on board, I suppose, in my experience of meeting murderers, to talk about what's gone on. But she's a very capable young lady, and she Skyped me, and just fascinating. So I think if they turn the cameras on her, they won't go far wrong. But I've agreed to speak to them. After I've done this, so I think I'm going to be really ill. I feel it coming. I feel so sick. So I probably shouldn't have done the show, but I did feel guilty. I know some people like it, and I felt guilty. If only there was some way of taking away that coffeeness that you have, that especially when you're trying to get to sleep, and it's so hard to sleep because you just keep coughing and coughing. It's racking through you. They give me Linctus, but it's absolutely nonsense. Even when I taste it, I think this is nonsense. I should have maybe got Cavonia or something that's a lot better, or perhaps Benylin. But it's not sleeping is awful, because you just get going off to sleep and then cough, 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 and then try to sleep a bit more. Cough, 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 cough up a bit of phlegm, head down, cough, 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 no sleep, cough, 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 and it goes on 2 o'clock in the morning, cough, 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 3 o'clock in the morning, cough, 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 retching noises, 4 o'clock in the morning, cough, 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 and that's how it's gone on for me recently. And then I do the school run, and then I get on with my day, and my day spent sending my CV out everywhere for everyone to ignore. And I've literally gone past the ego stage of that now. It's wonderful when you let your ego go. Mine's just got so beaten up lately, especially living in this village where the women have married well, and I'm a scumbag because I didn't marry. My ego, first of all, it got upset, then it was really painful, and then I thought it was being burned off me. It felt so painful, but in between the pain, all of a sudden, I felt I was letting go of something sticky and vile that caused me, like, I don't know, something horrid, chewing gum on my back that peeled off, and it was like, oh, I'm free. Now I don't give a damn about anything. I really don't care. I don't care that my neighbour thinks I'm a piece of shit. I don't care that she might possibly see me getting evicted. Who cares? I don't care. I'll say, hey, it's because I haven't got a man. We really need those men, huh? You know, I don't care. It's marvellous when you lose your ego. Nothing matters anymore. Anyway, thank you for listening to the show.